unbelievable production design, cinematography, score, just so much about it is kind of larger than life. And I absolutely love seeing this film on a big screen. Hopefully some inspiration, some food for thought. Hopefully they'll laugh. Favorite line from the movie? I always say it's a bad day for Bella Baxter. It's just a fun little alliterative phrase, you know?
Great, man. You know, a lot of this takes place in London, so I wish we were able to shoot here. But it's great being back here, and yeah, we're at the UK premiere. It's no joke. It started in rehearsals 3 weeks before we even started the shoot, and it was so fun. It was so easy. Yorgos is such a great director, and I immediately knew we were making something great. It's such a world unto itself. Every set is just beautiful. So much thought has gone into it. It's wild. It's everything's a little skewed, and the costumes are beautiful, incredible. And Emma Stone just gives one of the great iconic performances in it.
Day one. Yorgos is a very special director. Emma has a special relationship with him, and we came in to help them realize this thing. Very heavy makeup, and the nice thing about the makeup, when you work with a mask, you know, you can really leave yourself behind and leap into something else. And also it accomplishes a lot in the story because it really expresses a whole backstory and kind of sets up what he does. So, yeah, the makeup is great. And when they first pitched it, I mean, I knew it was going to be that way, and that I would be working with heavy prosthetics. And that's, for me, it's a pleasure. I like working with a mask. I'm not trying to inject anything. I'm just, you know, the relationship is very beautiful. I mean, unlike the Frankenstein story where the doctor is kind of horrified by what he created, Dr. Baxter falls in love with his creation, and he's even hard-pressed to let it go. Visually, it's extraordinary. The sets are extraordinary. All the elements. I mean, you can't always say that about every movie. And it's the whole package, and I think it has a lot to do with Yorgos and how the director and how he works with all the different departments, because he's really intimately involved in the whole process. He doesn't delegate much. His collaboration is everywhere.
It's really exciting. It's my first premiere ever. Yes. Well, Toinette is I like to see her as a really soft blanket. But she's not an object, but she's like really soft and reassuring, I guess. And she's a character that is a feminist, a socialist, and that takes Bella to female pleasure, I'd say. You wouldn't get like the chills you get when you watch it on a tiny device. I mean, if you have to watch it, but like maybe for the second, the third, or the fifth time, like on a tiny device. But you have to see it in cinema for the sound, for the decor, for everything. You need to see it in cinema. Well, when I watched it for the first time, I was blown away, and when I got out of the room, I did not know how to feel. So it's really like a roller coaster of emotions, and so when you're out, you're like overwhelmed by everything. Two things: the wink by Emma, and also when Yorgos played Angèle. She's a Belgian singer, and he played Angèle for my first day because I was nervous and you knew that I loved him.
Yeah, I think it was really just even starting from the rehearsals, being in a room with Willem and Emma and Mark, and just seeing how free and fun everyone was. It was really special. Yeah, I mean there were so many. I think I like that Bella's coining of furious jumping. I think is a very accurate way of describing something that birthed us all. I think it's a communal experience. I think we've kind of deemed theater movies as things that are huge action set pieces or superhero things, which I love those movies. But I think what we have here is just Yorgos and Robbie Ryan. Every frame they made is it's a work of art. I mean, you could grab any still and hang it up on the wall. To see it in a huge theater and then to laugh together, because it's just a straight up comedy, is so exciting. Max is just fascinated by curiosity. I think it's why he's infatuated to even begin with just with Baxter, with Willem DaFoe's character. He loves how scientifically progressive he is. He loves all the things that he's doing. He wants to be involved. And then he meets Bella, who is curiosity as a person. And I think he's just so drawn to that. I think the first scene we shot for the film was a camera test where Emma is at the table, you know, as the least developed Bella probably, and she's spitting kippers out all over me. And so I was just covered in kippers. And then for the rest of the shoot, every time I wore that outfit, Yorgos would give me a hug and then say, "You smell like kippers." And then I just saw him in New York last week, and he said, "You smell like kippers." And so I think he just has like a sense memory thing with me now, and kippers.
It's thrilling. It's very thrilling. It's been a long time coming, and it's just wonderful to be a part of something that's being so celebrated and marvelled and is so original and exciting. I normally read material and ruminate and ponder and absorb what the director says and then go away and explore. That's not too abstract an answer. But I definitely read this. I read this in the Element office in the West End. I was invited in to read it because it was highly confidential in a little room. I looked out onto a West End street and I read it very quickly because it's beautifully written and very lean, and I thought, wow, this is exciting. Yeah, it really is an ensemble, and it had sort of stages to it. The casting process is quite staggered, which in a way has really served it well. I guess there's the sort of immediate family and the environment around Bella at home in London, where she's brought to kind of grow up, and then you move through these different locations. So I think that we embrace the casting in those stages. But putting together the sort of core lead cast was a kind of piece by piece, and actually it became very important to put Duncan in place before we put Ramy's character into the equation. And those are the things that you only realise by starting to talk about actors and talk to actors who Yorgos might want to pursue. And then we enter into the sort of layers of the onion where we build the worlds and the textures and the landscapes, and that's always very explorative, like for example the Paris sequence, and the detail, and making sure that that was kind of humorous but also served a purpose so that you felt the kind of sinister levels and layers. And then the sort of the ensemble, as you cleverly say, with Catherine, Vicky Pepperdine and Chris Abbot and Jerrod Carmichael and Hannah Shagula. Really, Yorgos wanted to reach as far and wide as possible and be as original and fresh. I feel like that's with every piece of casting in the film. It's one of the things that struck me when I saw it. It was like, wow, everybody has just come together. It's like a great pop song, you know, when it just works, you nail it, and it's an everlasting tune in your head. And I think that's what's so significant about this cast. And not everything was a no-brainer, not everything was straightforward, and there were various journeys we went on. For example, Hannah Shagula's character was English in the beginning, then she was American, then she was Spanish, and then she became German. And also we were reaching out quite far and wide to grown-up actors at quite a challenging time. So I just think they're all marvellous. I think that this is a cinematic experience on all levels, and so it's always best to see that on a cinema screen. There's so much to take from this film. I mean, it's innovative, it's irreverent, it's thought-provoking, it raises questions about our internal narratives, gender, being a woman, being a human being, as well as being magical and fantastical.
Oh, it's a lovely feeling. It is, because you don't know when you do a project whether, you know, you don't know. I mean, you have a good sense of it. You know, it's a great script and brilliant cast, and Yorgos is brilliant. So, you know, I thought it would be quite good. Feeling, but you know, it's like the reaction has been amazing. Yeah, mean, it's all about it's really all about her, about Bella, and it's about her evolution from being a young child to being a fully formed person, and it's sort of playing with the clothes. It's really playful, and exploring these Victorian clothes, but with a very sort of in a very loose way. So picking things from different periods and mixing bits of 1930s knickers and 60s boots, and it is most of the shapes are Victorian, but we really got to play fabrics and textures and colours. It was a really creative project. So to the script, really, yeah. So working with the script, breaking it down, and sort of trying to work out how would be the best way to tell a story. I think that's what it is. That's what the job is. And then from that, colours and textures and shapes, and from that, finding things that inspire, like samples, other fashion designers' work. And there's a lot of things going on, and it's like it builds very slowly and gradually. Yeah. I think when there were a couple of moments. I think when the scene when she steps out in her yellow knickers, I love that moment, and. I love that costume as well. I really like those funny floppy knickers with the jacket and I think that moment, and also in the brothel, I thought I remember standing back and looking at that and thinking, this is there were a few moments. I mean, also just walking onto Showman James's set, before we even started filming, and just wow. So I think it needs to be seen on the big screen, deserves to be seen on the big screen. It's a real assault on the senses, it's a real feast for the eyes, and I've seen it many times now, and I feel like every time I see it, there's just some other thing that I see. I always have a different experience of film each time that I see it. I think it's really joyful. I think it's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's hilarious as well as being, a real sort of scrutiny of the ridiculousness of human beings and how they behave. I think it's very thought-provoking. It's interesting. It's a good night out.
Very early on, before we started shooting, I was just talking to Yorgos with the script and with the visuals. And the visuals, you can imagine the documents. You had the concept for this, so it was, a huge amount of really inspiring, really nutritious art from all the other departments. So I was just, use that as a starting block to try and, consider the noises and the sounds I wanted to have, and went from there. It was very to do with Bella, and I think I thought a great deal about the sort of emotions she'd be feeling, and as a character who's basically experiencing a huge amount of very extreme things for the first time, being able to play with this person who was, when you that primal state of falling in love or seeing death in this really vulnerable state, being able to really exaggerate and melodramatize all of this emotion was really important. I mean, the visuals of it are just phenomenal. The film stock they were using, Robbie's cinematography, the attention to detail on the sets and the costumes, visually it's mind-blowingly vibrant. And the sound as well. I worked with Johnny on making sure that it was as evocative and rich as possible. I think a very big and loud and bright screen is very important.
I just was very aware that we needed to kind of create characters we hadn't seen before, and when I saw what James and Shona, our production designers, were doing, and Holly, our costume designers, I knew we were creating this kind of fantastical, a brand new world basically. So the design process was actually really tough because we needed to bring something different to the table, but then obviously that makes it super exciting from a hair and makeup point of view. Well, it's set in Victorian times, even though we've really pushed the boundaries with that, but you kind of start in that, so you research that time. So I go to books, and I always start with books and research everything I can about the kind of shapes and silhouettes of that period. And then you can start to push from there. So it's kind of, you feel as an audience member that you believe you're in Victorian time, but then how far you push that is kind of, I think from day one. I think honestly, and even from some of the tests, when we took the cast into those sets and sat them down in those sets, it was like, I'd never seen anything like it. It was definitely something new, yeah. I just think it's an absolute visual delight. I think it's, to start in black and white and then to move when you get into Lisbon, into the colour and this fantastical world you're about to see a woman that's kind of starting from scratch, that is like this character you've never seen before. I think it's just visually mind-blowing.
It was really nice to be sort of on the home ground actually, because this is where we started concepting for Poor Things, so it feels, I don't know, it feels really nice. I was excited for this one, and I love the book. I think understanding the characters was really where we had to start. Understanding Bella, understanding Baxter, how he would have prepared his home for her to live within, and in a way that became the handwriting for the rest of the film. The fact that he was a maverick doctor and cut things up, put them back together. He did that with his architecture in his home, with his world. He also prepared with sort of padded rooms and padded floors so that she wouldn't hurt herself as a sort of giant toddler. So these sort of weird interventions actually came from the script, and they started to build our world. And then we tried to find our era within the Victorian era, but as sort of a fantasy from somewhere in the 1800s. So it was mind-bending. I think I didn't know until Baxter's house was finished, and I thought this is fantastic, this work. This is something that I don't know, and that was what we wanted to do, was create something that James and I didn't know already, we hadn't seen. So I think when I stood in Baxter's house, and it was 360, there wasn't a door, you couldn't go in, it was so finished, it was fantastic. Yeah, they will get laughter, they will be shocked, they will have so much to look at, they'll have to come back 6 times, and I think that big screen means every corner, you can look in a different corner every time, so it's a really big reason.
This is Prim. I think the clue is very much in the name. So she is quite stern, quite prim, quite a little bit judgy, I'd say, and quite disapproving of Emma's character, for sure, of Bella. A bit strict. She sort of doesn't have to say much because she just is in charge, and gets all the food and does all the organising, and also assists in the operations, which is just super fun. Honestly, I mean, heaven. So we did a rehearsal period for 2 weeks before we began shooting, and so I was in a room with Mark and Emma and Willem and Ramy, and we did things like waltzing. So I have now waltzed with, I think, all those people, which was magical. I never really thought that would happen. Well, I think there was a moment in the operating theatre where Willem was about to do an operation. We were wearing these crazy, amazing costumes, as you probably remember, and they'd made us some plastic, sort of big things to wear over our clothes. And there were some sheep and some goats live in a sort of pen, and Yorgos just started to play some amazing music, just classical music, and it was a sort of one of those moments where you're just sort of, I can't quite believe I'm here and can't quite believe this is happening, to kind of create the atmosphere before we went into the surgery. It was extraordinary. I mean, I think it's such an extraordinary world that he's created. He used, as you probably know, again, incredible fisheye lenses and crazy sort of, black and white filming and then colour filming. And we were kind of allowed to live our characters, and so it feels like a proper real world. And then Emma's performance is out of this world, like extraordinary. She just went into it in a way that, I mean, she's brilliant anyway, but I think it's a very special performance. And I think it creates this bright, vivid world that we kind of enjoy hanging out in. It's not like a real world, but it's an incredible world. It's like a dream world. Beautiful.
Lovely, yeah. I mean, it's sort of, we're kind of ratcheting up the premieres. It's great to be in London, and very excited for tonight and the opening. Well, I got involved in it when Yorgos, about 8 or 9 years ago, told me about the book, and that he wanted to make a movie out of it, and then I read it, and so it started back then. We just finished doing The Lobster at that point, so it was sort of, that was his first English language film, so quite a while ago. Favorite memory is actually when we saw the film for the first time in Athens in the cutting room, which was in May of 2021. 22, May 22. So that, and I was just totally blown away by it. I mean, as you say, the design, the camera work, the costumes are all incredible, and they're best seen kind of just writ large on that big old screen. And I think it's a really joyful, humane, entertaining, kind of coming to self-actualization movie. And Emma's amazing, and all the cast are amazing. So I think anyone who goes to see it will have a great ride. Well, Emma Stone, who's behind me, I think you can hear. Mark Ruffalo, Willem DaFoe, you'll have met Susie Bemba, who's here. Vicky Pepperdine, Jerrod Carmichael, Catherine Hunter. I'm missing some, I know I am. Ramy, yes. So an amazing ensemble of actors, so brilliant.
Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and comment on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to be notified when new videos are released.